Welcome back to Female Science News. I'm Naomi Kruh.
I'm Ziru Tang. This morning, an interview just been found with scientists who discovered nuclear fission. How do you feel about Otto winning the Nobel Prize and you not?
It is unfortunate that I could not receive the Nobel Prize as well, since I do feel that I played an important role in the discovery of nuclear fission. However, I am a female doing what most consider a male's job, and I have learned that I will have to live in the shadow of my male co-workers.
How do you feel about Lise not winning the Nobel Prize in 1944 as well?
I think it is unfair, considering how crucial her role was in the discovery of nuclear fission. I understand that this is a male-dominated field, but without her, I never would have figured out nuclear fission. After all, Lise Meitner and I found that there was a substance with a half-life of 23 minutes, which we conclusively identified as an artificial radioactive uranium isotope.
Can you explain the work you did in relation to the discovery of nuclear fission?
I believe that Hahn's pioneer experiments really showed that uranium was split by neutron bombardment. Hahn and I also repeated a scientist named Fermi's experiments. Also, myself along with my nephew Otto were able to prove that the active breakdown products, previously considered to be transuraniums, were in fact not transuraniums, but fragments produced by splitting. Later on, my nephew conducted other experiments, and from some of his experiments, the results matched those conducted by myself and Hahn, just confirming our discoveries.
What are your thoughts on nuclear weapons?
My work is scientific. Science is international, and its purpose is to serve the development of humanity. That being said, it does sadden me that part of my discovery was used to create atomic bombs, and that people in Japan lost their lives because of my invention. However, some people have used my work for good, because they are hoping that instead of coal, oil, gas, or water power, we can start to use atomic power for industrial use.
What were some challenges you faced being a female scientist?
It was hard. At one point, I was not even allowed into the chemical laboratories until a ban had been lifted in 1909. I was once told that a scientist was reluctant to have a female student in the lab because he feared our hair would catch on fire on the Bunsen burner. I was finally allowed to work in a lab if I promised not to go into the chemistry department where the male students worked and where Hahn conducted his chemical experiments.
What do you hope for future female scientists?
I hope that future female scientists do not have to endure what I had to deal with. A prejudice still persists. It is directed mainly against women in middle-class occupations, and particularly in high-ranking posts. Nobody seems to have protested against women as factory workers, but I don't know of any woman who has a leading position in heavy industry. I would not know whether this is because of the lack of women aspiring to such positions, or because industrial firms are reluctant to have women in leading positions.
Oh wow, I've never known that before.
Yeah, neither did I. I always assumed Otto was the one who discovered nuclear fission. I mean, he is the one who received the Nobel Prize in 1944. It's unfortunate that Lisa's just getting the recognition for her discoveries, but I'm glad she's at least getting the recognition she deserves. This is a photo of Lise Meitner and Otto Hahn in a lab in 1913. This picture can be used to show just how women in the scientific community were treated. They were constantly being put in the shadows of their male counterparts, despite their contributions. Lise and Otto worked together, but this photo makes Otto appear to be the lead scientist because he is more towards the front. He also looks like the traditional scientist in his lab coat, holding a notepad in a laboratory. Lise, on the other hand, appears smaller and not doing anything in the photograph that would indicate she is a scientist as well. This photo was most likely circulated amongst the male-dominated scientific community at the time. This being said, members of the community might have been unhappy had Lise been perceived as equal or better than Otto in the laboratory in this photograph, despite the fact that she had just as big of a role in discovering nuclear fission as Otto did, if not greater.